Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Krish here with another physics video. In this video, I'm going to explain what is the definition of charge and what are the methods to produce the charges and some important properties which are related to the charge. But before that, if you are new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon in order to get the notifications. If you need any assignment help, please mail me on ephysicsvideos@gmail.com. So let's quickly get into the topic. So the first question arises is, what is meant by charge? As we all know, charge is basically the physical property of the material object. By virtue of which the objects or the materials can attract or repel each other based on the nature of the charges. As we all know, there are two different charges, positive and negative. When two objects have given with the same kind of charge, like positive or negative negative, then they both repel each other. If they are given with opposite kind of charges, like one object is given with positive, other object is given with negative, then there will be attraction. So attraction or repulsion between the two objects will be due to the presence of charge. Okay, so that is why the charge is usually defined as basically the physical property of the object by virtue of which the object can attract or repel each other. Now the question arises is how the charge can be produced. There are several methods in order to produce the charges. The methods are friction method, conduction method, and induction method. So there are three different methods in order to produce the charges: friction method, conduction method, and induction method. So let's quickly go to the first method. Let's discuss the first method, that is friction method. So the name itself indicates there will be the rubbing of bodies, like in order to produce the friction. So I'm taking an illustration in order to make you understand. Neutral object, let's say another neutral object I've taken, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to rub one body with another body, thereby I can generate the friction. So these two bodies are rubbed over the other bodies. Then what exactly happens is one body attains one kind of charges, the other body attains exactly opposite kind of charges. Let's say if one body is attained positive charge, then the other body will gains negative charge with of equal amount, with of equal. Let's say if this object is attain 10 coulomb of charges, this body will attain minus 10 coulombs of charges. So by using the friction method, we can produce the charges on two different objects with two different charges, opposite kind of charges. This is how friction method helps to produce the charges. Now coming to the next method, that is conduction method. But here, before I go to the conduction method, I just want to explain one more point here. whenever I used to say like it is a neutral object, whenever I used to say it is a neutral object means there is a possibility, I mean there is a possibility to interpret in two different ways. So there will be two interpretations, right? So how can you imagine whenever I say the neutral object means there is a possibility to consider it as no charge, right? No charge. Or you can consider it as a net charge 0. Net charge 0. Okay. So there will be two interpretations. According to my statement, both of them are correct, but the accurate way to interpret my statement is net charge is 0. Let me explain why. So if at all I've said like it is a neutral object, if you interpret this as no charge, does this mean exactly the object has no charge? No, it is exactly the wrong interpretation, because there will be charges, but there will be charges both positive and negative, which are pre-exist in the material or the object or in the atom. But these positive and negative charges are combined together, bonded together to give zero net charge. Zero net charge. So the net charge of a neutral object is zero, but charge still exists. So that is why it is always correct to interpret my statement that is neutral object is net charge is zero. Now let us go to the next method, that is conduction method. Conduction method. So the name itself indicates conduction means transfer. Conduction means transfer. Whenever I use this conduction, it gives a meaning of transfer. Let's say I have used this conduction in case of heat, that means heat transfers. Similarly, I have used this conduction in charges, that means charge will transfer from where to where, from one body to another body. In order to make you understand this method better, let me take an illustration. Again, I am considering two neutral objects. So both of them are given, I mean both of them are neutral object. Then what I'm doing is I have given a certain amount of charge to one object. Let's say I have given 10 coulombs of charge. Other object is kept as it is. So here you can interpret in two different ways. I have added 10 coulombs of charge. That means I have added 10 coulombs of positive charge. You can consider it as 10 coulombs of positive charge, or I have this is added, or minus 10 coulombs of negative charge, let's say, removed. According to my statement, both are correct, but what is the exact correct way to interpret my statement is removal of negative charge from the material will give the positive charge. Let's say an object, let's say hydrogen is there. If in hydrogen there will be a positive charge and a negative charge, but one proton, one electron. Let's say I have removed this electron, then what happens? Negative positive has given to neutral charge. Once the electron is removed, then the atom attains positive charge. So on removal of electrons, negative charges, the object would gain positive charge. That is why I have said negative charge is removed in order to give the positive charge. But why it is the correct statement instead of this positive charge adding of positive charge? Because see, in an atom, nucleus will be at the center and all the electrons revolve around the nucleus, and it is quite impossible to remove a proton from the nucleus, but it is easy to add or remove the electron from the outermost shells or innermost shell based on the energy required. By supplying the significant amount of energy, electron can be added, electron can be removed. But proton removal and addition is quite a difficult thing, quite a difficult task, and most probably it is not possible because nucleus cannot be broken down. So that is the reason electrons can be transferred, either added or removed, okay, in order to give a certain amount of charge. Like, in order to give the positive charge, we need to remove the electrons. In order to give the negative charge, we need to add the electron. That is how we can we can add the charge, or we can add the charge either positive or negative. Okay, so hope you understand this point as of now. Now let's go to our discussion. So as per our discussion, I have considered two objects. One object is given with 10 coulombs of charge, another object is still neutrally charged. What I'm doing is I'm keeping both of them in contact for several seconds or minutes, whatever the time you need. So it is 10 coulombs initially, it is neutrally charged. After kept in contact, kept in contact and removed, and removed, then what happens? Both of them will gain sufficient amount of energy. Like this is positive charge, so this also will be positively charged. Now I just want to know that up to what extent the charge flows. You can simply say that till the equilibrium is obtained. Till the equilibrium is obtained. But what is meant by this equilibrium? What is equilibrium here? What is equilibrium? So here also you can interpret this equilibrium statement in two different ways. Q same on both the objects, or potential same in both the objects, you can interpret. But what is the correct way to interpret my statement like equilibrium is potential same? Let's say this object's potential is V1, this object's potential is V2, initial stage, let's say. So, and V1 is greater than V2. That means charge flows from higher potential to lower potential, V1 to V2. After some time, what happens? The potential of both the objects will become equal. Then there will be no possibility for the charge transfer. So I would say the charge flows from high potential object to low potential object. Till the equilibrium is obtained. That means potentials same. So this is what we call it as conduction method. Okay, by using the transfer of charges from charged body to an uncharged body, or high potential body to low potential body, charge can be, and the object can be charged. Objects can gain the charges. That is how the conduction method works. Now coming to the next method, that is induction method. So it is quite easy method. There is no necessity of rubbing the board. There is no necessity of third medium, or put in contact with each other. It is quite a simple method in order to produce the charges, and more effective method as well. So I have taken an illustration to make you understand this method better. So again, I'm taking two neutral objects, and what happens, what I did is I have given a certain amount of charge to one object and the rest second object is kept as it is, that is neutral. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking this 10 coulombs of charge, keeping near to the neutrally charged object. Then what happens exactly is this 10 coulombs charge pulls all the negative charges towards itself, because there will be, you know, um, attraction between positive and negative charges, so electrons will be pulled in this direction. Similarly, there will be repulsion between positive and positive, so positive charges will be pulled in this direction. So negative charges will be accumulated on the surface near to the charged object, that is positively charged object, and all the positive charges will be accumulated on the other side of the object. So this is how charges can be produced by means of induction method. Why this method is named as induction? Because this one charge on one object is inducing the other charges on the other object. So this is how induction method works. Hope you understood the methods to produce the charges as of now. Now let us go to the next important part of this video, that is properties of charges. Properties of charges. We'll discuss one after the other, and at the very first, the point that we already know, well aware of, that is there will be two charges, positive and negative, and there will be repulsion between like charges. There will be attraction between unlike charges. Attraction between unlike charges. But beyond that, I just want to add one more point here, that is the smallest unit of charge. Smallest unit of charge is universally accepted as charge of electron or proton. Charge of electron or proton, and its value is 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19, that is plus or minus, and mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 to the minus 31 kg, and mass of proton is 1.67 into 10 to the minus 27 kg. So as far as the universally accepted value, that is smallest unit of charge, is charge of electron, either electron or proton. That is the universally accepted value. But there are still the smallest charges exist, and those charges, those particles that possesses the smallest charges are known as quarks. Quarks. They will have 1/3 e. 1/3 e or 2/3 e, or 1/5 e, some sort of. So these are the smallest unit of charges, but it is not our discussion as of now. We are just concerned about only the smallest unit of charge, which is universally accepted value, that is charge of electron. Okay, it is charge of electron. So, or proton. Now let us go to the next point. Okay, so the next point is, it is a very important point we need to understand. So let's take a hydrogen atom. Okay, so how many electrons will be there? One electron. How many protons? One proton. If you take a carbon atom, there will be 6 electrons and 6 protons. If you consider sodium atom, let's say, there will be 11 electrons and 11 protons. And these, what are these numbers? These are whole numbers, right? Integers. So these numbers are known as integers. integers, and I'm going to represent this integer as n is equal to plus or minus 1 2 3 4, some sort. Have you ever noticed, or have you ever heard, or have you ever read a charge like 0.5 electrons? There is a calcium atom with 0.5 electron, or there is a there is another atom like 0.75 electron, or 1.05 electrons, some sort of. Have you heard such a charge anywhere, everywhere, know anywhere? So you might have not heard this kind of charge, this amount of charge, because charge is always available in integer multiples, like 1 into e, 2 into e, 3 into e, n into e. Okay, so that is the reason I'm writing the total charge of the object as integer multiple of fundamental charge, that is basic unit of charge. And what is this basic charge? Basic charge can be either positive or negative, so net charge also can be positive or negative. So this integer multiple of fundamental charge, or smallest unit of charge, either positive or negative, will give the total charge of the object or the atom or the material. So Q is equal to Ne. Now the total charge can be represented as plus or minus n into E. Here n is integer, E is the smallest unit of charge. So this property is called quantization of charge. Of charge. Quantization of charge. So from this quantization of charge, the total charge of any object or the material is equal to integer multiple of charge of, smallest unit of charge of electron or proton. Okay. So by use, from this relation, you may not get such a complicated problems, or such a complicated questions. Okay, so you may get a simple kind of question like you know um, how many number of electrons, are to be removed to give a charge of 1 coulomb to an object. Okay, so here Q is given 1 coulomb, and we already know E is equal to 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulombs. By substituting the values, I can get the value of N, something like this. So 1 coulomb by 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb, that is equal to, you may get 6.625 into 10 to the power 18, 18. Okay, one second. One second. 10 to the 18 electrons. Okay, so this is how you can solve the questions. These are the basic fundamental questions you may able to get by using this Q is equal to Ne relation. Hope this property of charge is clear to you. Now I'm going to the next important property of the charge, that is conservation of charge. Conservation of charge, like energy, charge also conserves, so like conservation of energy, conservation of charge also can be stated. Charge cannot be created, cannot be destroyed. If we cannot create, we cannot destroy. Okay, actually J.J. Thomson has invented the charge. He has not created the charge. Charge initially pre-exists in a medium or the material or the objects or the atom. Okay, nobody is able to create, okay, the charge. There is no such a thing like I have created 3 electrons today, or I have created 3 protons today. So we cannot say like that, because we cannot create the charges, we cannot create the electrons or protons. Rather, the electrons and protons are being invented, which are pre-existed, that are being identified by, in terms of experiments, okay, in terms of experimental results. So charge can neither be created nor be destroyed. Like energy, charge can be transferred from one object to another. And this is one statement, this is second statement, and we have left with one more statement, that is, total charge, like energy. Total energy of an isolated system is constant, like total charge of an isolated system is constant. So in order to make you understand the last statement, the first two statements can be easily understood by yourself, but when it comes to the third statement, let me take an illustration to make you understand this last statement better. So I have taken a jar in which I have noticed some of the particles with charges, let's say 1 coulomb, 4 coulombs, minus 2 coulombs, let's say 6 coulombs. Okay, I have closed the lid and I've shaken it well, and then I've shaken it well for several seconds or minutes, and then I've tried to measure the charges of the particles later. So I have noticed that this charges 4 coulombs, this charges 8 coulombs, okay, and this charges 3 coulombs. Now you are being asked to find the charge on the fourth particle. Okay, this is quite a simple thing. Like total charge of an isolated system is constant means Q initial for an isolated system is equal to Q final, right? So this is Q initial and this is Q final. You can do the same math. Okay, right? Q initial is equal to Q final. Now Q initial is 1 plus 4 plus 6 minus 2 is equal to Q final. 4 plus 8 plus 3 plus Q, right? Solve for Q. Q is equal to how much you will get? 4 plus 6, 8, 10, 10 minus 2, 8, 8 plus 1, 9, 9 minus 4, 5, 5 minus 8, minus 3, this plus 3. This plus 3 will go this side direction, minus will minus 6 coulombs. If you place here 6 coulombs of charge, you will get a net charge of 6 plus 4 minus 6, right? So 4, 8, 3, 8, 3, 11, 11 plus 4, 15, 15 minus 6, 7. Sorry, 8. 15 minus 6 is 9. Now here also you can measure. Here you will get total charge of 9, right? 9 coulombs. And if you find the total charge of this one, it should be 9 as well. You measure it 1, 4, 5, 5 plus 6, 11, 11 minus 2, 9 coulomb. That's it. So, however, initial charge of an isolated system must be equal to final charge of that system. This is what we call it as conservation of energy. Now let us go to the next important property. So in this property, from the relativity theory of relativity, Einstein's relativity. Have you? I think you all have heard of Einstein's theory of relativity. Based on this Einstein theory of relativity, the mass of a particle or an object changes with speed. With speed, if v tends to the speed of light, near to the speed of light, comparable to the speed of light, or 0.7 c or 0.2 c or 0.6 and 5 c, some sort of, okay, so comparable to the speed of light, and the relevant equation is given as m is equal to m naught by 1 minus v square by c square under root, right? So what is this m naught? M naught is rest mass. That means it is the mass of the particle measured when it is at rest. Okay, if we place this 0.6, what happens to the mass, effective mass? Let's see. 1 minus 0.6 square, because 0.6 c square by c square will get cancelled, 0.6 square. So as 0.6 square value is 1 minus this value will be still over value 0 point something, so m naught by 0 point something would be greater, one more than one value. So if this value increases, let's say this value 0.7, in the next one 0.7, then what happens? The denominator decreases, obviously the numerator increases. So if mass moves with speed comparable to speed of light, then mass increases, effective mass increases. But when it comes to charge, it does not change with speed. Even if it is given with a speed which is greater than the speed of light, even if its speed is greater than the speed of light. Okay, so charge does not change with speed, but mass changes with speed. So these are the very, very, very important properties which are related to the charge. So in this video we have discussed the definition of charge, the methods to produce the charges, and the important properties of the charge. Hope this video is helpful. If you find the video is helpful, please don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and hit the bell icon in order to get the notifications. If you need any assignment help, please mail me on ephysicsvideos@gmail.com. That's all for this video. Thank you all. See you in the next video. Bye bye.